Look, and I've got a lot of people at the senior level, mid-junior level that have been with us a lot of years, and nothing would make me happier to make them a lot of money. Okay,
Yeah.
We've made a lot. Everybody can always use more. I get that, but they've been with the business a long time. We're opening equity in many of them, which is the first time we've done that, and thinking about how do we transition this into the future for our little company as well as the brand.
Welcome to Money Market, a Bank of Tampa podcast. We highlight the businesses, expert business advice, the local economy, and points of interest in the Tampa Bay market. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, and make sure you like, follow, and subscribe, and share this episode with a friend or colleague. I am your host, Owen Lefebvre, the Pinellas County Market President for the Bank of Tampa, Tampa Bay's oldest and largest community bank. Today's guest, Neil Kiefer, the longtime CEO of the original Hooters, the iconic brand that started right here in Clearwater, Florida, and became a cultural phenomenon. Neil has been at the helm of the brand for over 2 decades, guiding the organization through massive industry changes, industry cycles, evolved consumer taste, a pandemic. I'm not sure if he would define himself as delightfully tacky yet unrefined, but we know he's one heck of a leader. So, Neil, welcome to Money Market.
Thank you.
Good to be here. No, thank you. So Hooters has a little bit of a special place for me because my dad's from Wisconsin originally. And so he came down, he would come down in the summer. And one time he came down, we went to Hooters, hadn't been to Hooters before, and he fell in love with it. Mm-hmm. And he would tell me that the Hooters in Milwaukee, he's like, it's different. Sauce is different. He's like, the whole experience is different. So that became our transition. Like almost as soon as he got off the plane, we would go to Hooters. So, I mean, it was a special place. He passed away a while back, but
I wish he was still around because I've heard that since 2000 or so, and that's about to change.
I hear.
Taste different, et cetera. So
no, I can't.
Sorry about his passing. My father's passed too, but we'll talk about all that stuff, the food, the sauces, et cetera.
Yeah, it kind of evolved because of my dad, into our family restaurant too. So one of those trips, I was sharing the story earlier today, anticipation you coming on. He came around my son's birthday, mm-hmm. and so flew in midweek. My son's having a big birthday party on the weekend. But since he was there and we had, a big group of family, somebody said like, hey, it's his birthday. So they dressed him up like a little owl and all the, it's great. It's like 4.
Well, you mentioned Wisconsin, and back in 1994, we won the Winston Cup, which was the NASCAR National Championship with Alan Kowicki, who passed away in a company plane a few years later, actually a year later, in Tennessee. But he was from Wisconsin, university grad, an engineering degree. At the time, he was one of the 2 or 3 college grads on the whole NASCAR thing. And he was our driver, and he was from Wisconsin. So
okay. Well, I love the connection.
Yeah.
So the story that's on the back of the menu about, the 6 businessmen that got together, so they created a place. Yeah. They couldn't get kicked out. Is that a true story?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
And I wasn't one of the 6.
Okay.
Right. So let's go back to 1983. Barely over 30. I had come to Florida in the early 70s to coach high school sports. And
what sport?
I coached basketball, baseball, and football. Primarily, I was a basketball coach. Okay. And then at the time, back then, the course of action for a coach was to become a principal.
Right.
And so I started taking graduate work at the University of South Florida. I had moved from Pittsburgh, so it was a whole new world for me in administration. And shortly thereafter, in the early 80s, some friends I had made through teaching and stuff decided to start the Hooters thing. And that's a true story at the start. And I was actually the attorney at the beginning. Did the original corporate papers on April Fool's Day, 1983.
Now, a corporate attorney?
Yes.
So you worked in-house?
No, I worked out-house.
Okay.
I did the corporate work primarily. And filed the original trademark, which is still good. I didn't know what I was quite doing at the time, but it's all worked out. And then in 1992, they asked me to come in and be the president. It was growing at a pretty rapid race, and not a lot. Only one of them quit their day job, so it was just a bunch. Most of us were young, 30-something guys that opened a bar restaurant. So,
okay, mm-hmm. And that original one on Gulf to Bay. I mean, that was
still there. Yeah, it's in our 43 years, or 42 years coming up.
That's incredible. Yeah. And what was there before? Because that was part of the story, right? Because whatever was there failed.
Yeah. Ed Drosty, one of the founders, and was my friend that we had met pre-Hooters back when I was teaching and coaching, and he was a young executive with U.S. Homes at the time. He's really a marketing guy. And there was 6 or 7 places that had failed there. So the first week they opened, they had all these fake tombstones by the door of the prior businesses. World's Worst Pizza, I can't remember, Rock and Roll something. It was sort of a biker bar at the time.
Okay.
That, we've been there ever since. But there are a
Yes.
lot of failed ones before us.
So 42 years later, how does a brand stay relevant over 42 years?
Ooh, well, I guess we've been blessed and cursed in some ways. We used to say if we sneeze, it'd be in the news. You know, it was
There was a time, right?
rather controversial at times, and to us, it wasn't very controversial. But it had become that as different iterations transpired over the years. But look, we're extremely relevant. That particular restaurant that we're talking about in Clearwater is on its 42nd year of same-store sales increases, and that doesn't happen often in the restaurant business. But there's been a long and twisting turn to get to where we are today.
So why do you think controversial?
Probably I think society has evolved over time back and forth as we weave through. You know, today more than ever, we're probably less controversial because there's so many other controversies. You know, everybody's got a little phone in their hand, which is in essence we didn't have until 2008 in this format when Apple came out with that. So I think it's just, you know, like a lot of things, it seems like there's two sides to every story. There are two opinions on everything. But we try to thread the thing down the middle of the fairway, as you were mentioning earlier about something else. I can't explain why, but hopefully we've used that to our benefit in a lot of ways, too.
Well, and I feel like early on, and maybe it's still ongoing, I don't know, but I mean, there were lawsuits related to discrimination practices. And for the most part, you seem to have navigated your way through that. I mean, over the last, again, you talk about ebb and flows. Over the last 5 years, it's been interesting. Have you been impacted by kind of the existing societal changes?
No, not really. I mean, it's sort of tame nowadays, one would think. But, you know, going back to the 90s is when we had, and I'm a lawyer by training, but I haven't done it in years. You know, we basically took on the federal government. They actually had a commissioner's charge against us in the early 90s that we were discriminating against men by not opening those positions.
Yes, yeah.
And the EEOC brought a commissioner's charge, which is they don't bring many. So there was no individual complaint at that point in time on that issue. And that was a rather probably really thrust us in the limelight in a very positive way. I think at the time, the 28 major newspapers, 26 of them came out with editorials in our favor, saying how ridiculous it was for the government to be interfering with something like that. So that really propelled us onward in a lot of ways.
Okay. And the Tampa Bay market has been booming. I mean, do you think there's any benefit of the business being here? Are you seeing any result of that, or is it?
It's here because my buddies were here when we started it. We have 11 Hooters here. We're about to open our 12th in the Villages in about 3 weeks.
Oh, all right. Okay. Congratulations.
Yes, and thereafter we have another one going to Wesley Chapel, so we'll have 13 here. And now we have another one where our lease is running out. We're not going to renew it, so they'll be back to 12. But with what we're going through now and the transition and the takeover of the brand again, you know, we'll have up to Ocala, Gainesville, the rest of the state of Florida, pretty much, other than a franchisee to the south of us. So,
okay, talk about the acquisition. I mean, how
much time you have?
I guess maybe start with what happened there, and then you know how big the scale. What does this look like?
Yeah, look, I'd have to give some historical perspective. From 1983 until 2001, we operated the brand from here, from Clearwater, Florida. And I would call it a three-tier system. That is the way we say we had a license with a company called Hooters of America that's based in Atlanta still. And then we allowed them to franchise in the late 80s. So up until 2001, we managed all of that. In 2001, the principal HOA at the time was a guy named Bob Brooks. Bob has since passed. But he doesn't like being under the terms of the license agreement. So we ended up in litigation with him in the Middle District Court of Florida and ended up prevailing to the extent that he gave us an offer we couldn't refuse to get out of managing him. Thereafter, he passed and had changed hands through different private equity funds. The most recent one was about 5 or 6 years ago. And they just started changing the brand in ways we didn't like. They over-leveraged it with debt.
As private equity groups?
Didn't reinvest in the business. And for the last 2.5, 3 years, we and the other remaining franchisees kept complaining and trying to tell them, don't do this, don't do that, fall upon deaf ears. And it ultimately got to the point where they had so much leverage on it, the lenders were in jeopardy. So in the last 20 months, I've been working in lenders, our group has, to say, look, we don't want to see this happen to the brand. We'd like to come in and try to resuscitate it, rescue it, at least in their stores. Meanwhile, we're building stores and our units are doing great. I think we are at that point in the last year, we were double their sales on average, call them AUVs, average unit volume. So we were still very confident if the brand executed.
How many stores do they have?
They had 191 in the as the franchisor a year ago. They're down to about 110, of which we're acquiring, taking over.
Okay, so with your 11, you had more revenue than they had in their.
We didn't have more revenue. I mean, collectively, the brand had close to $1 billion of revenue, but now it's probably down to about
per
700.
store.
Oh yeah, double.
Per unit. Okay.
Yeah, per units we were double theirs on sales.
Okay.
And we operate our units here and in Chicagoland.
Okay, so in terms of, I mean, outside of just over leveraging, what were they doing in the stores to result in?
Well, for one, they've never used the original sauce. You know, the sauce has a lot of key ingredients. Let's put it that. And you have heard that someone will go to a Hooters restaurant in another area and say, "But their food's different."
Not like my dad, right?
Yeah. That's not my and about close to 70% of our food items have that sauce on it.
Okay.
So it's very important to get that right. Second thing, probably more dramatically and more damaging, particularly in the age of social media, I think they changed the uniform. They, in my opinion, my words, over-sexualized it, made the shorts really, really short. We'd call them thong shorts. Well, that drove away the general public, okay, a big segment of it. You know, ours has always been, we say it's a neighborhood restaurant that many families choose to frequent. Our first commercials.
It was like a beach theme, right?
That's what it was, a beach theme. And back in the 80s when it started, jogging was really prolific. You know, that's when they started the big Gasparilla race here in the late 70s, et cetera. And dolphin running shorts for the guys wore them too. You know, Frank Shorter, one of the greatest runners at the time in mid-distances, wore dolphin shorts. That's all they were, okay? Put something on after you come from the beach. You know, our wives would put those type of things on. Guys wore them. It sounds a little weird today. The guys would wear dolphin shorts, but that's what was running shorts were back then. So.
Okay, well, I feel like shorts are getting shorter, so maybe.
You know, but in the restaurant business, you don't want a bunch of stuff exposed that you really don't want to see while you're eating your meal. Let's put it that way. Okay? And I think they went down that path of doing that over our objections. Legally, we don't have a standing to stop it. And in the era of social media, so when that comes up out of Atlanta, well, people in Tampa see that, people in Chicago see it, that potentially damages your target audience. You know?
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons why I had you on, because like I said, I mean, it's a place that, you know, is a family place because of my dad. It became important to me and in good times as a family. And then also people seeing that, okay, Hooters is going under, there's problems with it, and just kind of set the record straight that, I mean, franchise is strong.
Look, I think that we had a meeting yesterday with all the domestic franchise, and I think we're in 23 countries now too. And the spirit is really high. They're very excited that the original group's coming back in, stabilizing all of those stores that weren't doing too good, like in markets like in Indiana, Texas, Georgia. We're going to take those over. It's probably a 0 to 24 month project to turn them around. You know, getting the right food, getting the right uniforms, getting the right culture. Many of the buildings are in physical disrepair, so there's a capital investment. When you don't reinvest in your business on a regular basis, it starts to fail. So.
Now, where does that investment come from? Are you bringing in outside investors?
No outside investors. We're just taking it over.
Okay.
We've done enough here. And look, I compliment the founders and my partners in the extent they made a lot of money on this in the last 42 years, okay? And this is something at their age they don't have to do.
Yeah.
So it was really like, no, they felt compelled ethically almost to do it, to say, we can't let this happen. So,
and it's, I'm sure, a legacy component too. I mean, they built a iconic brand and
there's some personal pride in it, no question.
Sure.
Yeah.
Incidentally, I went to one last summer in Interlaken in
Switzerland.
Yeah.
Haven't been to that one, but it's been there probably 25, 30 years.
It's, you know, we laughed and kind of appreciated it. And after my wife and I ran a marathon, and then afterwards we were walking by and trying to find a place to eat, and we were like, you know, why not? A little piece of America. Burger heavy on the menu. I mean, they had wings, but I mean, they led with burgers, which was.
Oh, okay. Well, it's funny. I was in a discussion yesterday. There's a developer that has 24 units in Mexico, and the different things that you do regionally. You know, our signature carders are famous wings and sauces and stuff. But you know, when you get international, you have to slight twist to it to conform with local culture, local requests. But you keep the wings on and the main theme of the restaurant.
Of course. So, I mean, there's been some major disruptions in the food industry. I mean, Red Lobster comes to mind. I think California Peach Kitchen went under. Applebee's is closing locations. Ruby Tuesdays is another one. How have you been able to kind of navigate the ebbs and flows of the changes in the
Well, again, I'll talk. Our little company is 22 stores, and we do about 100 million in sales. That's a lot for
That's
the
a lot,
restaurant
yeah.
business, particularly at our price point. We're not selling expensive steaks and bottles of wine, so you got to do a lot of volume. The restaurant business is a tough business. I mean, it's a high capital expenditure for a low return on that investment. We've managed this smartly. We've had little or no debt. We've reinvested in our business, haven't stripped it. And then been sensitive. Our most important thing is our culture, our workforce, our people. People, whether it's in the offices or in the field, that's just treat people like you want to be treated. If there's
Right.
an issue somewhere, you get on it right away and correct it, or whatever you have to do. So I think it's our culture and our attitude towards life.
Okay. You're the industry expert. I'm just a banker, so you know it better than I do. But the two biggest, the two biggest expense items are food and labor. Food, given the volatility in chicken wings, especially, all over the place. How do you manage that volatility? Do you have long-term contracts? Do you hedge? What?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
The long-term contracts are more of a tacit understanding between you and the purchaser and all the poultry industry, because we buy as a system domestically about 30 million pounds of chicken wings a year, and they're fresh wings we're serving, so there's a shelf life to those too. It has been volatile because the difficulty is we buy wings by the pound, yet sell by the piece.
Yeah.
So in the poultry industry over the last decade, so they get their turn on investment, they grew bigger birds. Okay? And our ideal bird is 6.5 to 7 pounds. Now they're going 8 and 9 pound birds. So they're looking like turkey wings almost.
Sometimes, right.
So you get less yield out of a 40-pound case. So it's been difficult. We've got various chicken providers. We've got a CPO that we head up now that controls all that and tries to exercise purchasing when appropriate. But unlike our sauce, for example, in our sauce, we use a lot of butter. So we'll buy butter by the truckload, 44,000 pounds at a time, and we can store butter. But with fresh chicken wings, there's a limited shelf life to keep them fresh. So it's a little more difficult. And then, and then there's the elasticity point of how much you can charge a consumer for that. People aren't going to overpay for something where they're getting gouged. So there's been times, and last year was one, the year before was good, where we've settled for less margin. Okay. You can't always make the same amount of profit every year. And I think that's one of the advantages of being privately owned.
Absolutely.
When you're public, you're always driving for this and this, or you're trying to sell. And we've never had that attitude. So we've been fortunate in that way.
Yeah, private, you have a little bit more of that flexibility.
Yeah.
And then, so I guess in seasonality, like around the Super Bowl, you kind of understand, okay, we're going to have thinner margins because it's harder to get. It's going to be more expensive.
But the other thing funny about the restaurant business too, so volume cures a lot of ills. So around Super Bowl, when you're selling that many wings, you're bringing extra, you're bringing backups. You're making more money because of the volume, but the margins may be slower. If you sell 1,000 wings versus 100 wings, you can afford to make less margin, but you're getting more revenue on the top. So it evens out.
That track record of being able to have so many years of just consecutive growth is impressive. But consumer habits change. Maybe touch on what you've seen during the evolution of the brand, and then COVID was a game changer, and I know everyone kind of shifted to takeout. Have you seen more of the business?
Yeah, let's go back historically. The first 20 to 25 years, we didn't even sell alcohol. We did beer, wine only. Okay. And it was actually me that forced that issue a little bit, in that I coached high school for 30 years, and we'd meet up at a place after the games with opposing coaches from different schools, just BS and having a few beers. Well, I would always pick the bill up because I was doing a little bit better than the high school buddies that I coached with, and several would complain I couldn't get a scotch, I couldn't get this, So I'd say that to my partners, and I go, we don't serve beer and wine. I just beer and wine. I go, well, we got to change that. So we changed that. So
what was the thought there? Why?
It was just, why did they only have beer and wine originally?
Yeah.
Originally that was a cheaper license. There used to be 2-cup SRXs. Now there's only like 1 or 2 left in all of Pinellas County because everybody's gone to hard liquor. Today, liquor sales are about 6% of our revenue. So, and our company has about $6-7 million. If you can't we added salads early in the late 80s. Okay, it was a veto choice. Well, I'm on a diet. I can't. So everything grew. So we've adjusted that. I think then in later years, we've always done a tremendous to-go business. Up until the DoorDashes and the Ubers, and we were about 14% of our revenues were what I would call traditional to-go. We were in Uber's market test down here of 100 different restaurants when they broke the market, Uber Eats. And I think we were number 2 on their list.
Wow.
And now our overall sales, about 24% last year were traditional to go, okay, which is call in, or you just go by and pick up, versus third-party delivery. So that's changed the whole game. And we were reluctant to get into it because I know it's normal for us all now, but 10 or whatever years it wasn't normal. I just believed, and the team believed, that if someone's making a decision not to go out and they don't have your choice, you're not even in the game. Usually get to go back then was just pizza or Chinese. But you've already made the decision. We're not going out tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got on the list, and we've done quite well at it. So that's been a big evolution. I think the other thing is more macro-wise, up until maybe 6-7 years ago, 70% of our sales were food. Now we're about 76%. So we're really much more of a restaurant than people think. So that's how that's developed over time.
And is some of that just because people are getting takeout and they're just getting food?
Well, you can't take alcohol to go. I don't know. Certainly, percentage of sales has grown, and sales have grown. We're just more of a restaurant than a bar, is I guess how I would answer it. But for whatever reason, not sure.
Now, do you have to pay a portion of the bill for Uber Eats or DoorDash?
Yes. And the more volume you do, and they've changed their philosophy since it started. I mean, when they first came out, I think the deal was that we had to pay 30% to them on the revenue. I explained the margins in our business earlier. So it's like, I'm going to sell something to somebody and give you 30%, and therefore I'm selling it at a loss. I can't do that very long. So they adjusted that philosophy. And then also you charge a little bit more for the delivery because the consumer is getting the convenience of delivered to their door.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. It's worked out fine. I think they probably take 18% or something in that neighborhood nowadays.
Okay, a little more
changed
reasonable.
the business model a little bit. But again, you're not going to get that consumer unless you're in the game. So
yeah, you have to do it.
Yep.
Now, were you impacted by the avian flu? Was it the chicken wing industry?
Nope.
No.
It
Okay, so
never
it was just
affected us,
eggs.
yeah. We've had contingency plans for preparing for it because that threat's been around for probably 25 years in the business.
Yeah. So
hasn't happened to us yet.
that's good. The other big expense item is labor.
Mm-hmm.
So labor historically has been hard to come by, but I mean, you're also kind of like in a niche industry of who you're hiring. Yeah. I mean, how have you been able to navigate that?
Well, we're very comfortable right now, and I have to tell you that the original restaurant had 18 employees back in 1983, and 2 of our original Hooters girls both just retired as vice presidents. Okay. So they've never left us. And of 18, I think we had 14 stay with us longer than 20 years.
Wow.
I think it's the workplace, what kind of environment you have, how you treat others, how you want to be treated.
Yeah, that speaks a lot to it.
Yeah, and and look, in the waitress section, I was telling someone the other day, when you look at a P&L, okay, if you're a restaurant owner, if you can have a bottom line of 10% plus of net income, forget about EBITDA, the finance people like to use. You're a finance major.
Finance guy, and speaking my language.
But you got to build the building. You got to pay all the bills. You got to pay the labor. You got to buy the food. You get about 10% plus if you're running a very successful restaurant at the end of the day. Our wait staff last year took out 22%. So for every dollar that comes in that door, wait staff is taking 22% on average when the owner's getting 10 plus if it's good. And there are restaurants that aren't so good. Some do better than 10, but I would average it about 10 to be reasonably successful in this business. But we haven't had a problem acquiring people. We've been fortunate with that. So it's a good thing.
No, that was so going to USF like you did for your graduate degree. The one on Fletcher right there, that was a lot of the girls that at college loved to work there. And that was kind of like one of the places everybody wanted to get in because, I mean, they made great money.
I negotiated all our deals here locally, all 11 and soon to be more. But it's, I remember doing that deal. It was, I think it was a Kenny Rogers or something, if I'm not mistaken. We've added on to that over the years. But that's always been a good story. We've done a lot with the university. All of their sports teams we feed. We did podcasts from there. My partner, Ed, has been head of the Moffitt Foundation for 10 years. I think he just stepped down. He's just on the foundation now. We've given them over several $1 million locally. So we have a tight connection with USF, love them, and that's a great little store.
No, well, you've got, Hootie that's out there in between in the
Use
quarters.
games then, yeah.
That's right.
Good.
Yeah. I'm a season ticket holder.
Good for you. So are we. Good. Good.
Where do you see the brand evolving to over the next 3 to 5 years?
Wow. I think that going through the turmoil of the franchising company filing bankruptcy, and I've spent the last 20 months working with the lenders and the last 6 months working on an agreement, okay? We signed that agreement 4 days ago at 2:30 in the morning. I had given a signature in escrow. I feel like Joe Biden in the executive pen, or whatever that pen he's calling. What was the name? RoboPen?
The RoboPen, yeah.
So I got
I wish you had a RoboPen.
Yeah, email early next morning. The deal had been consummated. So what happens now is, and they're the secured creditors who have agreed. There's a hearing on the 29th of July, I believe, approving the sale, which should be approved, I would think. And then we'll be taking over sometime in August. So in our organization, we're going to go from a $100 million company to about $250 million company overnight.
Yeah.
That's taking over a lot of, I think we're taking 56 of the restaurants, and in northern Indiana, Georgia, northern Florida, central Florida, and Texas. The state of Texas has 28 units out there, and it's a big state to cover. So we're picking up a lot of new employees, a lot of new senior level people. So our team for the last 4 or 5 months have been working on everything to how much repair certain buildings need, who are the good managers, who are good regional operators, who's going to make the trip forward with us. So I'd say the next year is going to be stabilization of those restaurants while continuing to keep the eye on our 22 restaurants that are doing the high volumes. And if we can lift those up to somewhere near ours, we're going to have a very good success story out of that. So a lot of work to be done.
Now, is the goal there to kind of build those back up and then sell those to another franchisees? Or
no goal to sell at all. One of the things the lenders had asked me during this process of negotiation, and I got to tell you, I was on a Zoom call last week. There were 28 people on it, 19 were attorneys, and all were based in New York City. So you could just I'm sitting there counting and say, this is about $20,000 an hour to have this Zoom call. But no, we have no plan to sell it, and I told them the same thing. We like our brand. We run our business as a dividend-paying business. For 42 years, we've given dividends every 4 weeks, 13 times a year. That's how the restaurant business works. And we may have missed 1 or 2 of those in 40-some years. So we like to reinvest in it. We like to take our money out of it, enjoy our lives. And we have no interest in selling. That's not to say we never would. But as I said to them, the lenders at this point, my predecessors of running the franchising company, they're still own it technically, did such a bad job, in my opinion, of setting that company up for success. We got to stabilize it now and bring it back up. So that's a challenging job. As a diner, we all go out to eat. If you have a bad experience at a particular restaurant, your answer is you just don't go back.
Right.
Some people get on the internet and badmouth. That's fine. I'm not one of those people. So it's hard to win customers back. So this is going to be it's a challenge for us, but we're actually excited about the challenge. So that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the truth. That's just not smoke. Okay.
Well, I would imagine. The potential. You see what your stores could do. You've got a lot of history there, so I can understand the excitement about getting in and creating change and turning the organization around.
Look, and I've got a lot of people at the senior level, mid-junior level that have been with us a lot of years, and nothing would make me happier to make them a lot of money. Okay.
Yeah.
We've made a lot. Everybody can always use more. I get that. But they've been with the business a long time. We're opening equity in many of them, which is the first time we've done that. And thinking about how do we transition this into the future for our little company as well as the brand.
So does the franchisee going under change the strategy going forward? Do you look at the franchisee side of the business a little different as a result of this?
No, because we ran it from up till 2000, basically as the boss of the franchisor. So now we're just consolidating that role. So we have great relationships with almost all of them. There's a couple overseas I don't know, and again they're very excited. Our biggest goal is changing what those existing restaurants of the franchisor look like, operate up. Food like, and then it's changing our image in the public relations sector. When people hear the word bankruptcy, they go, "Oh, they're out of business." Well, no, we're not out of business. Okay, we're actually building new restaurants at this point in time. So changing the narrative in the communities, and there's a good start, right?
Yeah, no. So what does that look like? Are you bringing in a marketing company, your existing marketing company?
We have a strong marketing team. Ed Drosty, our partner, was the founder of that. philosophy of marketing, and it's been very, very effective for us. Denise Williams, our chief marketing officer, she's been with us 25 plus years, and does a good job of understanding the marketplace and understanding today's consumer. Not everybody's going to love you. Okay?
Right, yeah.
No matter what business you have. But we want to make sure that those who do love us, that we treat well and we acquire even more of those people.
All right. So what's your favorite thing to order?
Mine is our mahi sandwich.
Okay.
You get a little older, you got to eat a little healthier, I was the wings a lot when I was younger and the cold beer, but the older you get, it's harder to do on a regular basis. But just because I'm trying to be careful. But our mahi is a fresh mahi sandwich. It's delicious, and I like it.
Yeah, the mahi is great. And so as, I guess maybe as prices ebb and flow, do you also try to push different items? I mean, like a Burger Monday or...
Yeah, I mean, I think that Neil personally, and I don't call those shots, I let marketing and operations. I obviously could veto it if I wanted to. They've got a better feel for that. And we'll try to run specials. I'm not a big guy to run specials because I think it's almost tricking the consumer. If I'm a consumer, I'm giving you 50%. Why don't you give me 50% off all the time then if you can do it now, okay? So we'll pick certain items where we get buys on, where we'll push or we think we need to, fully accepting less margins, but we don't do it that often. Nationally they tried it more because I think they were more in trouble. So they were pulling every gimmick. Well, we're pretty consistent. Yeah. So.
All right. Is Dom Perignon ever coming back?
My wife asked me that yesterday.
Did she really?
And I guess I'm not that aware of all the details. I go, you mean it's not on there anymore? She goes, no. Good questions here. The second person to ask me, so I'd say there may be a chance that does.
Hey, bring it. It was 10 wings and a bottle of Dom Perignon for $100 or something.
Yeah, it was $99. I don't think I don't even know what a bottle of Dom costs today. I'm not a drinker.
Yeah, I'm not drinking Dom.
Probably can't do it for $99 anymore, I wouldn't think.
Probably not. But, all right, what about Hooters Airlines?
That was Bob Brooks's.
Okay.
It's funny after he bought the brand from us in the early 2000s. He was really into planes, and it was an eccentric guy, but a good guy. And he started that airline. So we're like, Bob, I don't know that the brand's going to work on an airline. I mean, it's like saying Hooters Hospital or something. It doesn't work everywhere. But he was destined to do it. And actually, those flights ran pretty full. His problem, he ran into a fuel crisis. And it sort of ran what Allegiant runs today almost, those secondary routes.
Yeah. I
forget the airline. He had boss Pace Airlines at the time. But that ran its course 3-4 years. I can't remember how long it was. But no plans for Hooters or anything like that.
So was he also involved with the casino?
No, he was not. He's the one we sold the rights to. And when we sold that, we kept what I designed as a irrevocable perpetual license back. In other words, he had been sort of a pain to manage because that was his purpose, I think, to drive us nuts. And so when we ultimately sued him successfully, he was going to own the IP, the brand. I was not about to take gruff from him or over supervision. So we took back what was called an irrevocable perpetual license to operate Hooters the way we deemed fit in Chicagoland and in Central Florida, in Las Vegas too. We had the casino rights to Las Vegas, so we opened that casino and did it. I did that also. That was a fun story.
What's the story there?
Oh wow! I mean, 2004 I started. We just thought our brand would fit good into gaming, and our theory was, and we ultimately come up with the marketing idea was the cure for the common casino. We've all been to Vegas, and I would tell people if I blindfolded you and took you to Wynn or Bellagio or whatever, and then took your blind off, I'd say, what casino we're in? They're all palatial, they're all beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, once you get in there. So we were a little different, had a little different budget, but we had a 700-room hotel across from the MGM. We opened in 2006 to great fanfare. We were about 90% occupied, which was the average there. In Vegas, I don't know if you noticed, the hotel, sometimes your rate changes by the day, because it's a commodity.
Surge pricing.
Yeah, they got 150,000 rooms there, it goes up and down. So we were at the lower tier, obviously, on our product, but always full. But you'd have a room one night for $39, and that same room may be $189 on the weekend. What was the question you asked me about? Sorry about that.
Just the story about the
So we opened it in 2006 on Super Bowl 2006. Had it till 2012. At that time, we had an 8.75% interest bond payment. People complain about interest rates now, and the interest on that was $11 million every year of just interest. Okay, so we, as well as a lot of other casinos, the Palms, the Stations, the Bellagio, I think he went into Chapter 11. You had to get out of those bond things, bond to high interest rates. So we entered into Chapter 11. I offered the bondholders, ultimately it was one big company, a private equity fund owned 127 of the 130 million bonds, sold them for 28 million to another private equity company who I offered 60 for. They wouldn't take it. So interesting story was in 2012, we lost it. They took it over, an outfit out of Beverly Hills, California. And they were sort of, the negotiations at times were rough. I was a little disappointed. They bought it for 28 million and I was going to give them 60 and they wouldn't take it. Agreed. So the gratifying part was in 2012, I called them and said, okay, well, congratulations. Now take all the signage down, get the restaurant out of there. You don't have the right to use those names. So we ended up charging them a royalty, and that lasted from 2012 until 2019 until they sold it. And I think over those 7 years, we got a triple return on our investment. So we didn't do too bad by getting a royalty. So it was gratifying to that extent. But then it became an OEO, and now it's next to the Tropicana, which was knocked down.
Right.
Because that's where the Oakland A's stadium is going to go. I'd imagine those 9 acres we had are going to be a parking lot or something. Was probably the highest and best use with a big stadium going there.
So do you see any other creative endeavors you're getting into?
Yeah, but I'd have to kill you if I told you. But actually, speaking of my partner Ed again, we have a movie script, okay, a comedic movie loosely based on the truth. He and Dennis Johnson, two of our partners, they came from Iowa, and I had come from Pittsburgh. When we all met, we were in our 20s, basically. It's a story about that. We have a script. We have a team. I think our hope is that will be out in the next 18 to 24 months.
Okay. So kind of a docudrama, how it all started?
It's sort of a comedic docudrama, I guess.
Yeah.
We say loosely based on the truth. And if you know my partner, Ed, everything's loosely based on the truth. He's hilarious, but I'm the fat guy. But so that's an interesting project we're working on, and it's been in the works quite a while. But now that we're getting control of the brand again, we're going to move with some of these things. So
okay, well, I mean, now that you control the brand, I mean, why not use the brand instead of loosely based?
Exactly, and this is we don't control it yet. August we will though.
Okay, right.
And you know, our partners are the bondholders, even though we're not obligated on any of that debt. Certainly, part of this negotiation and discussion is we recognize the position they're in, which is an ugly position. Okay. We're going to do our best to help them. If we make money, they're going to make money. So there's a good relationship between the two of us. So we're all hopeful.
Yeah, hopefully for a win-win. Anything else you'd like to add, Neil, before we wrap up?
Boy, that's a broad question.
You can take that one wherever you want to go.
I better keep my mouth shut on that. No, nothing on Hooters.
This could be fun.
Click. Okay.
Fair enough.
No, that's fine. I would appreciate the time and appreciate the Bank of Tampa and good luck.
Yeah, thank you. So if you want to direct people, do you direct them to the website?
Yes, originalhooters.com. Pretty soon that will all be consolidated probably to hooters.com. When we sold it, we wanted, for obvious reasons, we had a little bit of foresight. We wanted to distinguish ourselves from them. And then when they went through multiple owners and it changed, we really wanted to distinguish ourselves from them. But the average consumer doesn't get that. You know, you go into whatever restaurant, you know, if it's the original or it's a chain. So our process of doing this is get them re-Hooterized.
I like it.
New word, so we'll figure it out.
Fair enough. Well, so Neil, thanks for coming on Money Market.
Welcome, man. Good to see you.
You can find Money Market and Bank of Tampa online and on LinkedIn, X, Facebook, and on Instagram. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you around in the Money Market.